right, 1, 2, 3. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wheel Route Podcast. This is episode 8, commemorating week 13, 14? I don't know. 13, the last week of the regular season, minus the Army-Navy game, of the regular season of college football for the year 2015, year of our Lord. So, happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Real quick, want to remind you guys that the Wheel Route Podcast is brought to you by the34.com. Check out the34.com for sports commentary and analysis, as well as all the happenings in the sports world. That's the34.com. Spell it out or Google it. You should get there. Good stuff. I'm Logan Whitehouse. I'm coming to you from Virginia Beach, Virginia. And you can find me on Twitter at LogWanTheDawn. I think I'm joined by Jordan Shank. No Jason tonight. Jason still working. So shout out, Jason. It's good seeing you this weekend. We're going to miss your heavy breathing and deep insights. Jordan, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Jordan Shank here in lovely, rainy, cold Harrisonburg, Virginia. Happy to have you guys here on Twitter at ShankJordan.
That's right. And you can find the Wheel Route on Twitter at the Wheel Route, and you can also get in touch with us again at the34.com, or you can send us an email to wheelroutepodcast@gmail.com. All right. You drinking anything? You taking the night off from a heavy Thanksgiving weekend?
Oh, I've got a Budweiser left over from our Wheel Route watch party yesterday.
Right. That's good. I do not have any beers in the house, but I have some bourbon and a splash of lemonade, actually. I'm getting crazy.
Wow. Look out.
So anyhow, go Who's, right? Keeping it fancy. All right. Ton of news to touch on. We're going to touch on some of it here. We're definitely going to talk coaching, job change stuff later on in the podcast. But so I guess we can quickly hit the college football rankings. In some order, it was Clemson, Alabama, Iowa, and Oklahoma this week. I know Michigan State is lurking just outside the top 4 there, off the heels of their win over Ohio State. And then I guess, did they play? They played this weekend. They won, I'm assuming, because they're going to the Big Ten championship game. So I don't know if that's much of a surprise. I will say it looks like Oklahoma's playing great, and Iowa's still undefeated. So good for them.
Yeah, I think I got the rankings right in our previous episode. So I just want to bring that to everyone's attention. If I didn't, then that's going to sound really stupid. But yeah, Michigan State did play yesterday. They walloped Penn State 55-16.
Connor Cook was back for that one, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's good for them.
Seems to be in good order for young Mr. Cook. But yeah, sets up a good conference championship there in the Big Ten, and you would assume that the winner of that would get a spot in the top 4, barring any really ridiculous decisions by the committee. But
yeah, you kind of got to think all 5 of these teams are playing win and get in games, and I guess Oklahoma's already in because they don't have to play. So I guess 4 of the top 5 with Oklahoma already being in because they won the Big 12. If they win, they get in. So I don't know. It's always kind of a fun time of year. I think the SEC championship game probably is going to be the least exciting of them all. But I definitely think I'm really excited, frankly, for the Clemson North Carolina game. I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yep.
A good game. So good for the other conferences, putting the SEC in their place for what it's worth. Okay, that's enough on that. I guess this was rivalry weekend. So we had the annual slew of weird trophy games and things of that nature. So I guess we can quickly run through those. You got to hang out with me while we watched, most of, I guess, the Virginia game. That was it. We can start the noontime slot, so we were keeping up with Michigan, Ohio State, which turned into a bit of a snooze fest, and we were pretty much watching the Virginia Tech game, and it ended about how we thought it would end. Any thoughts on the game?
No, I think, like you said, I mean, you kind of called how this one shook out last week in that close, fairly unwatchable football that ended with Virginia Tech getting a field goal there at the end, and then Matt Johns just throwing a lame duck into triple coverage that got intercepted there to seal the game. So I hope Frank Beamer sends Matt Johns and Steve Fairchild a nice Christmas card this year. So that was a heck of a retirement gift. But yeah, I mean, at this point, like the whole streak, like that was Tech's 12th straight win in that series. That used to really bother me. Now it doesn't as much, just because I'm kind of ready to move on from the Mike London and Frank Beamer eras, respectively. So
correct.
Yeah, and there's the whole coach speak, like the past doesn't mean anything this year. It's a new game and this, that, and the other. But yeah, really, really ugly game. You really feel for the kids at UVA who, haven't been able to beat. I mean, those graduating seniors never got to experience what it felt like to beat Virginia Tech, as is the case with a lot of the previous graduating seniors. But, not the most enjoyable game to watch, especially given the outcome and where my loyalties lie.
No, I mean, definitely a bummer to just see it kind of fall out of your hands. It wasn't quite as gutting as the game last year, the 2014 game, where Tech sort of drove the field and won the game right at the very end. But you kind of saw it coming. I don't even know if I could say Virginia had chances to win the game. I mean, it was a close game. It seemed like Virginia would score and seemingly gather some momentum, and Tech would then sort of march right back down the field or catch a big play and go right down the field. And that's not really Virginia Tech's MO as far as an offense, but they managed to score when they answered UVA whenever UVA went up, and then they got the hold they needed and they kicked a field goal after they got the yards they needed. So good on them. And for what it's worth, it was, I can identify with wanting to send a coach out the way that Virginia Tech did, and it seems like they did it right, as sort of, I guess, tough as it is personally, given where I went to school and such. But good for Frank Beamer. I guess he'll be on his way. Tech will go to a bowl game. Is he going to coach the bowl game? I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm sure he will.
I would assume he will. It'll be like the SpaghettiOs Bowl or something, and in the middle of North Dakota. But I hope
be a lot of maroon in the stands, I'm sure. So
yeah. They travel so well.
True that. But anyhow, so we move on to that game. We mentioned Michigan, Ohio State. I think that game that got out of hand pretty quickly, it appeared. So, Ohio State maybe rounding into form, maybe too little too late for them. I don't think they would get into the playoff barring, I think, a pretty bad collapse barring losses by the teams that have to play in conference championship games. So that would be wild if Michigan State and Ohio State got in. I don't necessarily think that could happen, but Ohio State, of all the teams that could get a break, Alabama and Ohio State could be those teams that still make it in if they lose.
Well, I guess it would take for Ohio State. I mean, they'd have to root for North Carolina to beat Clemson and then Florida to beat Alabama.
Right.
That's about the only shot they have.
And good luck with luck with that. So.
Yeah, good luck with that happening.
Right. So anyhow, rest in peace, Ohio State's best team of all time season, and what else we got here? 3:30 games.
You know the classic line: if you got two quarterbacks, you don't have one.
And in their case, they had three, which is a lot less than one. So, 3:30 games, the Iron Bowl. Kind of a snoozer of a game. Literally, I think we all took naps during this game, but I don't know. Not really too much to take away there. Will Muschamp got really mad on the sideline. That was kind of funny. Pretty much, scored Alabama 15 free yards, got them into field goal range, and they effectively put the game away when they made a field goal there to make it a 2-score game. I don't think Alabama really ran away with it. Derrick Henry had 47 carries, I think. He literally carried the load for Alabama in this game, and Auburn's defense looked pretty good, but I don't know.
They were just out there so long that you knew eventually, you can only absorb so many Derrick Henry body blows before things get nasty.
Right.
That was the case. And 47 carries. I guess Drake, their other running back, is out or extremely limited with that arm injury. So
Is he playing? I thought he broke his arm, but I don't know if he did.
Yeah,
Or
I
if
think
it
they
just
showed
looked
him on the
weird.
sideline at one point, and they were talking about, they thought he broke it, and
Oh.
different tests showed different things, so they've got just this huge wrap on it, and
Man, that looked nasty. I was watching that game where because he had a horrible leg break against, I think it was Florida actually last year, and I mean it was one of those Willis McGahee backwards knee kind of situations, and then it looked like he fell on his elbow weird, and maybe he just hyperextended his elbow or dislocated something. I think sometimes that's a better case. So anyhow,
yeah,
that's
he
minutia.
he didn't have any carries
right.
yesterday, so I don't know if he'll be available for the game against Florida and or the playoff or what's going on. But
well, at this
Eric
current
Henry
rate, they don't need him.
Right
Yeah.
now.
Exactly. So Alabama moves on. They took care of their business in the evening. I think that was the only game of note. I guess Iowa won at some point in there. I don't know when that game took place.
That was on Black Friday.
Oh, it was on Black Friday. So they beat Nebraska. I don't know if that's a rivalry game either, but they took care of Nebraska and punched their ticket to the Big Ten championship game. And in the evening games, I think we had 3. Well, wait. When was the Clemson North Carolina game? That was in there in the afternoon
Clemson
slot.
South Carolina. Yeah, I think that was
Clemson South Carolina. Jeez.
That might have been a noon or a 3:30, but yeah, it was earlier in the day.
Yeah, I think we were tracking that game. Just sort of looked like Clemson was going to maybe pull away. We had heard our guy on the goal line channel say that they were asserting themselves against South Carolina, and then they only won by four or five points. I don't know if maybe South Carolina scored right at the end and had a chance for an onside kick or something, and it wasn't maybe as close as the score indicates kind of game. But maybe Clemson rested on their laurels a little bit, and rivalry games are as they are. So I don't think the committee is going to look down too much on Clemson for that game, but
no.
Hopefully not like a chink in the armor for them. You never know. And then evening games, we watched Florida State mostly at my house. It was a packed house in there, the White House living room. A lot of noise, a lot of raucous fans. The game was pretty much a snoozer. Florida didn't score a point on offense. They looked really, really bad, kind of as expected. Florida State looked good. Florida's defense played a lot better than the score indicated. I think the final score is 26-2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think Florida's defense played really well, but Dalvin Cook's on the other team. Florida State scored a touchdown with 18 seconds to go in the game, and they leaned on that defense all day. You're gonna give eventually, so that's how it went. Florida couldn't get anything together on offense. It looks like they had some chances too. I mean, they put together some drives and got down. They missed field goals. Pretty much the standard Florida point scoring experience for the past month, 5-6 weeks. So but that's Florida's already into the SEC championship game, so maybe it takes a little bit of the shine off that game. But I mean, do you have any thoughts on this game? It was pretty rough from Florida's point of view. Florida State looked good.
Yeah, no, I think you got it, and I think Florida State is kind of experiencing the qualms of playing in the Coastal there with Clemson ahead of them. If in an ideal world you just have the two best ACC teams playing each other in the championship game, but what with conference expansion and stuff, I mean those two are obviously the cream of the ACC crop, and it's just kind of a bummer that only one of them gets to go to the conference championship game. But North Carolina, to their credit, has played well this year too.
I think they deserve it. I mean, Florida State and Clemson got their shot at each other, and we saw how that went. So I think good for North Carolina deserves it. Oklahoma really put it on Oklahoma State in Stillwater. That was a dominating effort by them. We were tracking some of this game. I don't think we watched too much of it, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Oklahoma State coming in with a lot of juice these last 2 weeks to go 0-2 in their last 2 weeks. That's got to be a bummer for them because they were knocking on the door of the top 4.
Yeah, and they Oklahoma had Baker Mayfield in there at quarterback, which there was some concern. Would he be able to go? Wouldn't he be able to go? Kind of a pedestrian performance from him, just looking at the box score. I mean, he threw for 2 scores, but only 180 yards. Their running game they ran the ball for almost
Dominated.
50 and 5 scores. So, seem to be pretty dialed in on that side of the ball right now.
Yeah, I remember at the beginning of the year, everybody was wondering why Samaje Perine wasn't getting carries. I mean, they lost a game towards the beginning of the year, and yeah. So anyhow, it sounds like they've figured out they maybe should give the ball to their good running back, and it's working for them. They look formidable. So I'm excited for them to be in the playoff. You know, Bob Stoops being a little bit annoying, but that team is definitely fun. They kind of remind me, a little bit of Clemson, maybe. So
yeah, no, I think that's fair. And it kind of feels like, right now we've got 3 really awesome teams in the top 4 in Clemson, Bama, and Oklahoma, and then whoever the Big Ten sends is going to be, for better or for worse, kind of overlooked in favor of those other 3.
Right.
Which, that Big Ten school might prefer it to be that way, but
I think that's about how it went last year too. So it worked out. For them.
It worked out all right for them.
Exactly. So and Notre Dame Stanford was about the last game that I took all of in. Kind of a crazy into that game. Probably the best game of the day. Pretty high scoring game by Stanford standards, I suppose. And I think Notre Dame was driving with a chance to win, and everyone was kind of wondering why David Shaw wasn't calling any timeouts to maybe preserve some time on the board. I think it kind of got to the point where Notre Dame had a chip shot field goal, or they were going to score a touchdown. Oh no, they needed a touchdown, so they were right there on the doorstep. Kaiser took the ball around the end and looked like he got in the end zone, and they called it a touchdown. So, 30 seconds left. Everyone was wondering, why Shaw didn't call any timeouts, which I think is fair to wonder. But as it turns out, they reviewed the play, and it really looked like he didn't get in. I mean, maybe you couldn't officially say that he didn't get in, but they upheld the call. So Stanford got the ball back and made short work of getting into field goal range for their kicker, who's pretty good, and used all their timeouts really effectively that they had, because I guess they knew they only needed to get into field goal range, and they won the game. So
yeah, I mean,
it's easy to second guess, I guess, if probably didn't have a very good chance of winning that game. But go ahead.
Right.
What
I mean, the timeout stuff looks okay now because they ended up winning, but I think if they lost, that would be a much hotter topic today. But good on Stanford. They got it done and did us all a favor by getting Notre Dame the heck out of the playoff chase. So
correct. Yeah, and good for them. Another really good year for Stanford. So they just keep churning out those 10-win seasons. And again, somehow this team lost to Northwestern in the first game of the season. I don't know how that happened. It was a nice day in Chicago, and they lost. So maybe their body clock was off.
Yeah,
as what's his Mr. Who's that guy? Who's the director of the board of the college football playoff? Anyhow, he's the Arkansas AD, but he was making references to their body clock being the reason that they lost that game. So
that's tremendous.
It's like, okay, I guess that counts. So I think that's about it. I mean, I don't think there are any other games of tremendous note. We apologize to all you, Air Force fans out
there. Shout out to Chad Kelly for getting an Egg Bowl win.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, good for him. They were winning that game 28-0 and then had to hold on for dear life. So
yeah, but had the swag to get it done.
Yeah, they were cooking in that first quarter at least.
Right.
So good for them, and you always kind of wonder with probably both of those two teams, maybe a little less Ole Miss at this point, if those coaches will be around next year. So
right.
All right, so we got conference championship games coming up. We're gonna switch up the order here, talk about next week. So we're gonna pick the 4 major conference championship games. Is that right? We don't have an AAC pick, do we?
Well, the AAC does have a conference title game we could pick, but because it doesn't have playoff implications, I think yeah. Temple Houston. I don't know if we want to go down that road this week. We can talk about it.
That's okay.
Next week, because I'm sure we'll all watch every second of it. But
breathlessly.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty sad next week. Only 5 games. So.
Yeah, we got
it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and the conference title games, 3 of them are all, kickoffs are scheduled within a half hour of each other that evening, I think. which
That's
is
good.
it's just poor planning on the TV.
The Big Ten will play every one of their TV games during the season at noon if they could, and then they'll probably try to kick off their conference championship game at 8:30 when everyone else's does.
Yep.
All right, so speaking of the Big Ten, we have Michigan State, Iowa. You got a line on this game?
Yes. Spartans are favored by 3 points.
Okay.
The one-loss Spartans versus the undefeated Hawkeyes of Iowa.
Wow. I kind of figured Ohio State would be playing this game, to be honest.
Right.
And I kind of figured they would trounce Iowa. I'm a little less sure of Michigan State, but if Connor Cook's playing, I think you go ahead and give me Michigan State in that game. I think they'll win by double digits.
Okay.
But all you Iowa fans, feel free to talk trash if they're really good. I can't believe Iowa's that good given what I've seen from them and their schedule. I think this will easily be the best team they've played.
Yeah, I think you're right that they really haven't had necessarily the kind of tests that Michigan State has had to this point. I'm gonna go ahead and just take Iowa though.
All right.
I did watch some of that game on Friday, and hadn't watched a lot of Iowa football to that point, but I think we had kind of stereotyped them as just kind of a boring, vanilla, but effective brand of football, and that's pretty much what they are.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it because I also appreciate, a Tony Bennett coached basketball team that
real meat and potatoes.
Yeah,
style.
Real don't impress anybody, but win anyhow. So yeah, I'll go Iowa and root for them to just keep the run going.
Yeah, why not? I mean, that would be awesome to see Iowa in the Final Four.
Yeah, and you should always gamble with what you want to happen, not what you think to happen.
Exactly.
That's a little tip for our listeners out there.
Yeah, I mean, interesting points about Iowa. I would probably argue that Michigan State is just a better version of Iowa, but I think we'll find out. So they're gonna play.
Yeah, that's why they play the games, Logan.
This is true, Jordan. Thank you for that reminder. All right, next on the docket we have Florida, Bama. I'm gonna say this is a big spread. Yeah.
Yeah, 17 points
Oh my gosh.
would be a large spread, and that's Alabama favored, not Florida.
Yeah.
For those of you wondering.
The game's not in Florida.
Yeah.
Wow.
They don't get to play this at the Swamp.
Yeah, I think 17 points is a big spread. I think Alabama could definitely beat Florida by 17. I have a feeling. Yeah, I really want to take Alabama. 17 points is huge. I mean, Alabama could win this game by 14 points and absolutely dominate, and never be in question. So, especially given how they didn't look superb against Auburn, give me Florida here to cover. There's no way they win this game, especially given their quarterback situation and their general offensive. Their kicking game is horrible. Anything that could possibly score points for them isn't going well right now, including untimely penalties on kick returns. So go ahead and give me Florida to cover, just because I think Alabama will probably put it in cruise control and maybe backdoor cover. Florida scores a touchdown late in the game just to save face a little bit and gets it within 17.
Yeah, I'm torn here. 17 is a very large spread, but I also feel like, we saw some of it in the Auburn game where at least Auburn was able to put together some drives and get their defense a rest from having to deal with Derrick Henry. I just don't know if Treon Harris can do that against Alabama's defense. So I feel like the time of possession stat in this game could be really ugly.
Yeah. Florida's going to need a big game out of that punter, I tell you that. So.
Yeah, among other folks. Yeah, I'll go Florida here just because my theory is that Bama's going to solidly win this game, but I think they'll want to hang on to some things tactics-wise and maybe get get like a Derrick Henry a rest in the fourth quarter if they can, and that and some of their guys on you rest some of your guys on defense, and that, like you said, gives Florida the chance for backdoor cover to only lose by like 15 or something. So
yes,
I'll go Gators. Begrudge.
All right. True that. All right, Pac-12, USC, Stanford. Who you got?
The line is Stanford -4, which I'm going to go ahead and take the Cardinal here. Mm-hmm. I get USC's super talented and good for them, but I just really like the kind of football Stanford's playing. They took care of a very good Notre Dame team this past weekend, so I'll go Stanford. And because four really isn't all that much,
right?
In my eyes, compared to 17, especially. So.
No, you're right. Is a game? Are they playing that in horrible Levi's Stadium? Is that where they play this game?
Yes, in Santa Clara.
So that's like remotely Stanford oriented, right? Not that Stanford really packs a crowd ever anywhere, but yeah, I think I'll take Stanford as well. I kind of want to take USC just because they're kind of like, and I'm sure they would hate to hear this, but they're kind of like UCLA. They show up against good teams sometimes and lose bad games they shouldn't. But I just think that, yeah, Stanford's the better team, man. They should be able to hold on to this. They should be able to dominate the ball, push USC around. USC pretty much lame duck coach, I would think, unless they plan on bringing Helton back. I kind of doubt they would, given their prestige and desire to move on. So, not a whole lot of juice for USC in this game. Give me Stanford to cover and probably pull away at the end.
Yeah. Final game of the docket here is the prestigious ACC championship game, and that is the North Carolina Tar Heels and the Clemson Tigers. Clemson is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Is the game in Charlotte?
Yes. Bank of America Stadium.
Woo!
The house that Cam built.
Go ahead. Give us the line. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're fine. Clemson is favored by 6 here.
Wow. Man, give me the Tar Heels, man.
Yeah, hell yeah, brother.
Give me the Tar Heels. I would love, at this point, I kind of would I think it'd be pretty crazy if UNC made it to the playoff, given how sort of under-respected. They essentially were on the same level of respect as Iowa, I would say, all year. Especially from me, I think I've kind of trashed them a little bit on this podcast, so I have been really impressed with them of late. 6 points is a big spread. Clemson looked a little shaky last week, and not saying they were holding back for a big game with North Carolina, but North Carolina lost to that South Carolina team. So, granted, that was a fluky game, and it was week 1, and it was a fluky game. But go ahead and give me North Carolina. I think they're going to come in just absolutely jacked up to play this game, and why not? I think this is going to be the most fun game of them all. I think I said that already, but I'm really excited to see how this turns out.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's going to be the most entertaining game of the day. I think Stanford USC could be fun as well, but maybe in a different kind of way.
Yeah, nothing riding on that game, so.
Yeah, so probably won't watch a whole lot of that one on my end, but I am going to take North Carolina here. I'm in the same boat as you, as I really haven't given them a whole lot of respect this year. I think losing to South Carolina will do that for a team.
True.
But yeah, they haven't gotten a whole lot of respect from the committee. Part of that, can be attributed to their schedule. They didn't play Florida State or Clemson this year, which that's not their fault. They can't go and schedule them. But yeah, they're a one-loss team who lost at probably the optimal time to have your loss, which is week 1.
Right. They're one quote-unquote good out-of-conference team, too. They didn't lose to Toledo or someone like that.
Right. Yeah, if you're going to lose to your premier out-of-conference team, you want to do that in the first week of the season. So Yeah, it is. I mean, they do have that in their favor. I'll go North Carolina to cover here. The only concern I have is their defense. I mean, they gave up what 30 something to NC State. 34, yeah. So that was a 45-34 win they had against NC State. So it'll be interesting to see what their defense can do against Deshaun Watson in that Clemson offense. But yeah, let's heck with it. Let's go Tar Heels on this one.
All right, so there we go. There you got it. We agreed on every pick, I think, right? Except for Iowa. Except for Michigan State, Iowa. So, did Jason give us picks?
Yeah, he wanted the favorites in all these games, which feels like a really, really lazy way to do things. But
come on, Jason.
Yeah, come on, Jason. Goodness.
Just kidding, buddy. Hope you're living the dream out there in that Days Inn in Bradford, Virginia, wherever you are. We feel for you.
Yep.
Okay, so now we can get to the good stuff. Huge Sunday of, this is the annual Sunday after the last week of the regular season, sort of coaches coming and going, getting shown the door, et cetera, et cetera. I guess I'll take them in the order I saw them. Late last night, it was blowing up Twitter, but LSU decided to retain Les Miles as their coach. I don't really see how this works out well for anybody, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this
given the build up to this, I don't think this works out yet.
This is probably going to end up in like a management school case study as how to not conduct business and press relations and all these things. I think I saw somewhere on Twitter that apparently there was a meeting amongst the mythical LSU decision makers in the third quarter of that A&M game where they decided, yes, we're going to keep him around. How much truth there is to that rumor, I don't fully know. That
sounds fully off the rails, which jives with LSU. But
yeah, completely believe it. I think if I was Les Miles, I would, if I plan on coaching for another 5 or 6 years, then I'm inclined to take another job, honestly, because it's clear that your bosses don't want you there, and they're keeping you there in spite of that feeling towards you. So I would probably have no desire to stick around if I'm planning on coaching another 5 or 6 years. If it could be that I think he's like 62, 63 years old, so he may only want to do 1 or 2 more years before he rides off into the sunset and does whatever Les Miles does in retirement. So from that standpoint, yeah, I could put up with it for another 1 or 2 years, I think. But yeah, totally mishandled, complete train wreck of a series of events.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you on like what Les Miles would be thinking as far as that. I don't know if the contract mechanisms would ever be in place for him to get released from his contract unless he either accepted to pay for some of his buyout or they waived part of it as part of him leaving or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think he'll coach for too much longer. I know Michigan fans were all crazy for him before they were able to get their hands on Harbaugh to come back, but 62 years old. And we talked about this last week. I think just seems like the way he wants to play football has sort of passed by him a little bit. And I just don't know. Like, are we going to be having this conversation all year next year? When LSU loses to Alabama again because they still don't have a quarterback that's good enough to beat Alabama, and LSU loses one other bad game they shouldn't lose. I mean, you would think the way that they're handling this that they are. Alabama, who literally gets upset, when they lose in the Final Four or something like that. Yeah. So, they haven't beat Alabama since that weird year where then they lost to them in the national championship game, right?
Yeah, where they played twice. I think that might be
was that 11 or 12? So, I don't know. I mean, this is, like you said, just really poorly handled all around. You got to think that either president or athletic director, whoever that Joe Oliva guy is going to be taking some major heat and might need to reconsider his career opportunities as well, given how poorly that's gone. But, I mean, I don't know if anybody wins in this situation. And I don't know if this is conspiracy theory, but given that we heard that there was a third quarter meeting amongst the the LSU brass, whoever they are.
Yeah,
this one could hold some water too, but I wonder if they reached out to Jimbo and there was just no way that was going to happen, and then they just figured they'd just bring Les back because they had him under contract, and you don't want to pay a big buyout and take a big chance, but I don't know, who knows? We'll never know, but yeah, it almost seemed like a lot of people were making it seem like it was a done deal. First, that he would get fired, and second, that Jimbo Fisher was ready to take the job.
Right.
And I don't know if obviously none of those have happened, and other stuff has happened that could potentially affect Jimbo. So, all right, so I guess I had this out of order, but I saw that UVA announced earlier today, with a heavy heart, they announced that Mike London had resigned as the head coach of the University of Virginia Fighting Wahoo football team. So take it away, Jordan. I don't know. I know you've been planning this for probably 24 months now, what you're going to say. But
yeah, and I
personally, I wasn't surprised. It was interesting that he resigned. I guess that's just a little contract mechanism thing where he probably gave up some of his buyout. But
yeah, that's schematics.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I had like a whole speech written up, and then I left it in the laundry last night. So
oh no,
you guys don't get to read the beautiful poem I wrote about Mike London.
it was
no,
a big coup.
Yeah, but it was really good, really powerful. No, yeah, this is really a tough one to swallow. I mean, not that he's moving on for performance reasons. That's not tough to swallow at all because
right.
We get how these things work, but. He was everything that you could ask for from a head coach in terms of, treating kids well, making sure they were straight academically and in the community, and his only flaw was really the biggest thing that you get paid for in college football, and that's to win games.
Right.
I think he was probably in over his head a little bit when he took the job. I think he had 2 years head coaching experience at Richmond when that hire was made. He won a national championship in 2008 and then had another playoff visit in 2009 before he was hired. But the book on him when we hired him was kind of, he'll make you scratch your head and question what he's doing sometimes, but he's an awesome guy and the kids love him. So as long as you can get some solid coordinators behind him, you guys will be great.
Sure.
Which never really happened. The
right.
coordinator situation was never good at UVA, and that was unfortunately out of London's control to a large degree. The way that football program is structured.
Right.
So there's bigger problems with that program that need to be addressed for it to move forward and become successful. I think if John Oliver's not fired, he needs to at least be kind of reassigned to some other responsibilities besides being kind of the Jerry Jones of that program. But
sure.
But yeah, you hate to see that kind of a quality guy not work out. Especially when it's at your alma mater. So, bittersweet day, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes to show you how important getting the right assistants really is in modern college football. I mean, I think Georgia lost a coach based on probably a lot of very similar situation. And, you can look around at maybe a coach like, say, Dabo Swinney, which I think has a lot of very similar qualities to Mike London. And he's doing, quote unquote, doing great, but I mean, I'm not really convinced that Dabo's pulling the strings on offense or defense over there. They've got a couple highly paid assistants that are getting that done, and then he's, the figurehead, and he's the motivator and the recruiter, and when it all comes together, it can be really powerful. But it never came together for London. I will say, I mean, John Oliver his name comes up a lot when you have these conversations. I think I want to probably place the blame on him for how we scheduled.
Yeah.
More than anything else. I mean, I do think some of the staff changes, while often, changing coordinators too often is never a sign that things are going well. But, he was trying to help, Mike London based on some people he brought in. Ostensibly, you got to think. But the way that they scheduled, pretty much just so they could sell tickets by bringing in big-name teams. And, I think David Teal wrote a pretty interesting article about it today. He's from the Daily Press, I think, down here in Newport News or Virginia Beach. And, basically they were trying to sell tickets and schedule all these teams. And if they take the same route that, say, Duke did and not play a very ambitious out-of-conference schedule, UVA probably makes a bowl game the past 2 years. So that, yeah. and then you wonder, like, is it different? I mean, I don't know. It wasn't, what are the standards at UVA if, consistently making a bowl game 2 years in a row? I kind of doubt you fire Mike London given where UVA's been. So,
right. In that scenario, it's really hard to project too, because, you get 2 bowl games or 3 even consecutively under your belt, and that's immensely more practice time in the off season you have developing your younger guys. Which you just don't know how that turns out. But yeah, it's tough because London essentially kind of had the reins taken out of his hands there after the 2012 season when the coaching staff changes happened. And like you said, it wasn't Oliver saying, "Oh, I'm gonna make sure this guy gets fired now. Let's wipe out his assistant coaching staff," because I think it was out of, we need to take the next step. The problem is the guys that Oliver hired for London weren't improvements at all. So they're
yeah. And at the end of the day, you watch UVA play. They play like a poorly coached football team.
Yeah.
Like tons of special teams penalties. Routine special teams, too many men on the field type situations, which is just super indicative of a poorly coached team. And he's an excitable guy and seemed to be, obviously all the players love him. This is college football. This is how it goes. The coaches pretty much uniformly always love their coach, unless it's maybe like Tim Beckman at Illinois. But yeah, so we got figured out on defense, which again comes back to like, there's a reason that a guy like John Tenuta has been a defensive coordinator at every school under the sun. That's because he can only stay at a school for a couple of years before people figure out what they're doing. I mean, I figured out what we were doing, and I don't even watch. Frankly, I try not to watch UVA that much because they're too sad to watch. So, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. We've switched offensive coordinators numerous times, and it's just it all kind of amounts to just a tough situation. So. Like I think I tweeted out earlier, I'm happy for the program, and it does bum me out though because Mike London was a great guy, and I really hope the best for him, and I hope that he can find something out. And I don't know if we've heard the last from Mike London. He's a pretty young guy. Hopefully he did some learning, but from a game management standpoint, it still appears that there's a long way to go for him. So.
Yeah,
hopefully he can sit under a coach that knows what he's doing for a little while.
Yeah, I think his best fit right now would optimally be for one of these programs is go in as a, kind of go back to the basics as like a defensive line coach or a defensive coordinator somewhere, really bolster their recruiting presence and get under a guy who's been around the block several times and kind of be mentored by him.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now you won't hear his name mentioned in any head coach openings this year.
No, not at all. I mean, he's sort of not a, I think Joker Phillips is a good example of someone who was at Kentucky for a couple of years, was just way over his head and was out of there, and then caught on as a position coach, and I don't know, he's he was always a good recruiter, and I think that's pretty much exactly the blueprint. Or maybe what's the guy's name? Tosh Lapoy. I think he's a defensive line coach, recruiting ace specialist. I think probably for Alabama now. He's been all over the place, but so I think he could easily slide into a role like that, and I think that would probably fit him better. And if he wants to be a head coach someday, then someone might give him another shot, but might need to drop it down and reassess a little bit. So anyhow, it was kind of an inevitable move, and one that had to be made. So now I guess we can look towards the future for the Who's. So I mean, the other big piece of news that came out was I think personally probably the most, I don't want to say shocking, but surprising to hear today was that Mark Richt was fired as the Georgia head coach. You got any reactions, immediate gut reactions to that? I was pretty surprised when I heard it come across, just given the fact that they had righted the ship a little bit and we're kind of in the midst of a bad year at quarterback.
Yeah,
shall we say, to put it lightly. I mean, they Georgia has a bad year at quarterback and goes, what are they, 9-3?
9-3.
Yeah. So
with Grace, Grayson Lambert was the starter for 90% of the season. One of your losses came when you played your third string quarterback for some reason,
right?
And never
against one of the best defenses in the country.
Yeah.
So the big takeaway here is Grayson Lambert pretty much got 2 coaches fired this year. So good for our boy Grayson. really excited. He was responsible for Dead Man Walking Mike London this year, and now Mark Richt. So yeah, I was surprised. He's had 9-10 win seasons, I think.
Yeah,
that's insane. I mean, the SEC East is not great. I think he's only won the SEC East 2 or 3 times. But you got to think a lot of those, 4 of those years we're dealing with Urban Meyer, Florida teams that were all routinely pretty competitive in the East. But that does, you would have thought they would have won the balance of them. And I think Missouri has won it the past 2 years. And, people sort of made it seem like it was an inevitable thing to happen. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, my reaction when I heard it was a mixture of just pure being baffled at what Georgia is thinking right now. And a little bit of, it's kind of reminiscent of Bo Pelini getting let go. And my thing is, and I think I've mentioned this on a previous episode, like, if you're going to cut a good thing loose, you better know that you're going to be able to get your guy to fill him in. And you need to be rock solid on that, especially this year when there's just so much potential to miss out on a candidate for another job.
Right, or just miss on one, too. There's with so many jobs coming open, someone's going to get a job. It's not going to be a good fit, too. So
yeah, and I think, the other emotion that I felt was a little bit of hope that maybe UVA lands Mark Richt.
Oh, man, he would be such a good fit.
The Mark Richt pipe dream. I think I've actually read somewhere that after Al Groh was let go, there were preliminary discussions between Richt and UVA about whether there was mutual interest, and
I guarantee you we couldn't pony up enough money to get him away from Georgia while things were going well.
Yeah, and I think that was probably a big factor. We just didn't want to cut that big of a check at the time. So we can only imagine what could have been if Mark Richt's going into his 7th season right now.
Well, Will Muschamp would be in his 4th season as the Georgia coach, which would have been great. So.
He might not have lasted that long.
Hey, I don't know. He's a native son. But yeah, just kind of crazy, and this is going to, as it always does, affect recruiting. And I know Georgia is widely looked upon as a great top 3 or 5 level job, just given their proximity to Florida and Atlanta, Georgia, the talent-rich areas in Georgia and South Carolina and Tennessee, and all just sort of those areas. They're not that far from, they're not that far from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good talent comes out of Alabama.
Right.
Centrally located in the Deep South is what I'm trying to say. And, just really advantaged position, a lot of money and great facilities, all that kind of stuff. So the expectations are going to be extremely, extremely high for the next coach that comes in. So he's going to really have to want that job. And so, naturally we get to the rumors section of this this little segment of the Wheel Route podcast, brought to you by the 34.com, where we talk about things that we've heard, names that we've heard floated out there. I've now heard Jimbo Fisher to Georgia rumors, and I just have a tough time believing that I guess Jimbo makes it to Georgia. What do you think? Any other names?
I could see it. If you're at Georgia, you're in the SEC East, so you don't have Alabama every year. which he had if he went to LSU.
That's probably true. Yeah, I don't know who Georgia's permanent crossover is. It actually might be Alabama, but I don't think it is for some reason.
Okay.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, assuming it's not,
yeah.
Then my idea sounds awesome. But yeah, I think we had said last week that Kirby Smart could be an interesting candidate for that Georgia job. I think he's an alum.
Yeah.
Which would be interesting, but yeah, again, Georgia, you better have a plan in place.
Right, and I think when Georgia hired Richt, he was the quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator at Florida State, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Coming out of there, so I mean they have a track record hiring an assistant and him becoming a good coach. I really hope I'm not totally screwing that up. I know that Mark Richt was that guy under Bobby Bowden for a while, so you know. I think Spencer Hall put it well on Twitter today. He said, "Oh, hiring a former Nick Saban assistant to coach your team, that's never gone poorly for a SEC East team." And maybe because Kirby Smart looks a little bit like Will Muschamp too, I just don't feel like this is going to go well if they hire Kirby Smart. I mean, he's always talked about for jobs, and maybe he doesn't interview very well, but he's never left, and maybe he's never left for the right opportunity, and Georgia would be a great one. But for Georgia, I think you got to get someone in there that has some head coaching experience at the big time level, just to, I don't know, provide some direction for that team. I don't doubt that Kirby can recruit because that whole Alabama staff can recruit. But yeah, it'll be interesting. That's a great job, and they're going to be talent rich. And we mentioned that this trickles down, but it trickles down to recruiting too. I saw that. I think they had a 4 or 5 star running back already decommit, and I think Evander Holyfield's son had committed and is now reconsidering his commitment. And they have a 5-star quarterback that has, been having some interesting social media activity with various offensive coordinators of other schools, and allegedly, I read an article today. He had reached out to 4 other schools, as a contingency in case. I think his name is Jacob Eason, actually, in case, Richt got fired because he wanted to go because he wanted to play for Mark Richt. And, that's what you're going to get when you fire a coach.
Yeah,
so, none of this is a surprise, but go ahead.
Mark Richt is more than welcome to bring those young men to Charlottesville.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, Mark Richt's from what I can tell, he's a really good guy. He's got family and faith are all important to him and stuff. So I would love to have a man like that coach any football team I was a fan of. And I kind of think Georgia will probably regret this, at least in the short term. But if they think that they're going to be Alabama, if they hire, say, Kirby Smart or Jimbo Fisher or something like that, then, I guess you got to go for it at a certain point.
Yeah, they're certainly rolling the dice, which as fans of chaos, I guess we can appreciate. But
yeah, exactly. So Georgia, moving on. I guess we can officially announce now that Justin Fuente has been named the head coach at VPI, Virginia Tech. So Bud Foster has also been confirmed to be staying on that staff.
The school announced it today?
Yes,
okay.
They had a press conference today. Or it was confirmed. And actually, they did have a press conference. They announced it. Their athletics site tweeted it out as well.
Yeah, that would seem to be official.
Yeah. So, and they also did. I think there was obviously the question was asked during the press conference if Bud Foster was staying. He is staying as a defensive coordinator. No word on Shane Beamer, which I know breaks Jordan's heart. I imagine they'll find a place for him somewhere. He can have a headset and run around. And talk to nobody, but
recruiting coordinator, yeah, the absolute idle head of a job,
right? So, I mean, I think Virginia Tech's a good job, and if you listen to Justin Fuente, he says he turned down 12 other opportunities for this job. So, I mean, I have a slight little bit of a tough time believing that to the letter of what he's saying, but if he had his eyes on this job and it came open and you want to take it, good for him. He seems to be a good hire.
Are there 12 other jobs open?
Oh yeah, there are.
Yeah, I guess
it's like 15 or 18 open. So yeah, I guess after this yeah, I mean, so who knows how much truth there is to that? But he is going to be the head coach in Blacksburg now, and seems like a solid hire. I mean, I don't really know too well. Jordan, you brought up last week that he's been at Memphis for a little while now and has had the benefit of having a pretty prolific quarterback, and it'll be interesting to see if he created the quarterback or the quarterback really helped him out. As we know, these coaching staffs are always so married to the quarterbacks they bring in and develop, and to some extent that was the downfall of the Frank Beamer era. Towards the end there, they cycled through some quarterbacks that were not as good as the quarterbacks that they had before. Vicks was named Byron Randall.
Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, I mean they had some players.
Sean Glennon.
At that position. Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's good for Virginia Tech. Solid hire. There's one off the board, so we can take that off our dry erase board that we have here at the Wheel Route Podcast main studios, and. We got any other rumors worth mentioning? I think I saw DJ Durkin, the defensive coordinator at Michigan, was maybe interviewing with Maryland. We also heard Lane Kiffin had interviewed at Maryland, but I don't know if that's actually been substantiated.
We broke that a while ago. I think
he probably broke his toe when they told him they weren't going to hire him. That's probably what happened.
And he just kicked a street lamp in College Park or something, and
it was a cutout of Randy Edsel actually. But
I think UCF has agreed to terms with Dino Babers.
Oh, really?
SB Nation reported that earlier this evening, probably about like 45 minutes ago, I think. But so Dino Babers looks to be in at UCF.
Dino Babers of Bowling Green University, for those of you scoring at home.
Right.
I think they had a quote-unquote fun offense, and they were pretty good.
Yeah, if you got a fun offense, you can be a college head coach this year.
Yeah.
Well, next year. You can get hired right now.
Urban Meyer, former Bowling Green head coach. So look at that. It's a factory these days. It's pretty much the
just churning them out.
Western Michigan to Cincinnati pipeline.
That's
right. He'll be coaching an SEC team here in 3 years. So
yep.
Good for Dino. Anything else on Maryland? Just
DJ
rumors?
Durkin. From what I've read, DJ Durkin to Maryland appears to be close to done.
Okay.
Of course, we may publish this Wednesday, and they'll have hired Dan Mullen or something like that. But
right.
But I'm gonna go ahead and call DJ Durkin to Maryland. I think CoachingSearch.com has reported there's been some talks between Matt Rule and Missouri, which is potentially interesting there.
Yeah.
And then Rutgers has apparently offered Greg Schiano their head coaching job.
Back. They're trying the Bobby Petrino Louisville route.
Right. And depending on who you believe and who you don't believe, I think they've given him a 36-hour window to decide.
Jeez.
So by the time this goes live on the internet for you guys, Greg Schiano might have already agreed to terms, or he may have gone somewhere else. So, but as of Sunday night, I think Greg Schiano has been offered the Rutgers job.
Right. I see per 1 hour ago, Dino Babers to UCF rumors are not accurate as of yet. So we'll see. We'll see who's actually
really
there. But you're right. Coaching Search did tweet that out an hour ago, but then someone else said that they texted him and he said no. So
yeah, we'll SB Nation. Stephen Godfrey was reporting that.
Oh, okay. Well,
so
I'm sure he's in the know. So
who knows, really?
I mean, I bet it'll happen. It's probably one of those things he can't actually say yes to anybody at this point. I see Iowa State named Matt Campbell, who was Toledo's head coach, their coach. I had seen earlier that he was getting a little bit of. He would be a good fit at UVA kind of steam. So I don't really know anything about him. Toledo was good. I remember Florida played them a few years ago. They looked really good. They seemed well coached for whatever that's worth, and they beat Arkansas this year. So I know they have had a pretty good team for a MAC team.
I bet they had a fun offense too, didn't they?
They have a fun offense. That's going to be a going theme this coaching season. Coaches bringing fun offenses and multiple attacking defenses. So get excited for a lot of that kind of talk. We'll see. I see Rutgers dismissed their coach also If anybody was wondering if that was actually going to happen, it did happen.
Yep.
The least surprising news of the
paves
day.
the way for Greg 2.0 to come.
Well, and their athletic director, I think, also. But
yeah, apparently they are slashing some folks up there.
Well, given their sort of disarray, their men's basketball and football coaches situation has been in the past few years.
Yeah.
It's probably about time for heads to roll in the athletic department. So, Rutgers, Iowa State.
We can talk UVA candidates if you want.
Yeah, we should do that. But just to recap, so we USC's still allegedly, in theory open. South Carolina, Maryland, UVA. Did Illinois name a coach?
Yeah, they like.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They like retained the guy they have, and then they said that's not ideal.
Right. Obviously, the situation isn't ideal.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that poor.
A lot of recruits. They're gonna get a good recruiting class this year, I think.
I'm sure he's getting paid enough to for that just to roll off his back. Though.
Right. Don't know if North Texas has selected a coach yet. Don't frankly care. Yeah. Georgia is now open, which is just massive. Miami's still open.
Would you put Georgia above Southern Cal or below in terms of attractive jobs?
Way above.
Yeah.
I put Georgia far and away number 1. I might put Georgia number 3 job in the country.
Second.
Based on.
All right. Second to which jobs?
Jobs.
So if all jobs were to be open, which are you...
Rating everything together, I think you could put, and I don't call me crazy for saying this, I think you could put Florida up there as a top 2 job in the country, just given the fact they're the only SEC team in the state of Florida, and the ability to recruit that state at such a high level. And I think I probably weigh recruiting really heavily in my ranking of jobs, but they're able to pay a lot. They have great facilities, yada yada. So I think Florida's ahead of them, and I guess. I don't know if you say. I don't really want to say Texas because it seems like a really toxic situation.
Yeah.
But I think given, again, the mixture of recruiting and resources and facilities available to you, if you were this is cheesy, the right guy at Texas, I think that's the best. I think that's probably the best job in the country. So Alabama's probably in the conversation just given their relative ability to pump money into that program.
Yeah.
But, maybe a nod to LSU, although it seems like they're kind of in a bit of turmoil right now. So I think Georgia probably slides in there in that top 5. It's probably a pretty nebulous group of schools, but a handful of SEC schools and then Texas. And
yeah, I'd throw Oregon up there as well.
That's probably a good job. I don't know how easy it is to recruit to Oregon still. It seems like they still get freaky athletes, but I don't know.
Got
they win Pac-12 games, and the Pac-12 is a physical conference now. Pretty much now too. So that's probably a good point, good call.
Yeah, you've got there you've got California kids to pick from, and
sure.
You've got Granddaddy Phil Knight just pumping money into that.
Yeah.
Program. The facilities out there are insane.
Go ahead.
But yeah, we can move on now.
Yeah, no, so that's just, those are my personal thoughts.
Right.
But I do think that, got to give some weight to sort of location and ability to support a big program like that. So, so those are the open jobs. So let's talk UVA. Who do you want? Who do we get? What do you think?
All right, so from the research I've done,
sure.
I'm going to list off some names who are reportedly to be considered as serious candidates for the UVA opening. And we're going to go alphabetical order just for the sake of being,
By first name or last name, though? That's important.
Last name.
Okay, cool.
Right. So first we've got Jeff Brom, the head coach at Western Kentucky. He's really the only name that doesn't seem recognizable on this list. But
another fun offense guy.
Fun offense guy. Put up the points. Second, Mac Brown of Texas Longhorns fame.
Oh my God.
I'm absolutely opposed to hiring Mac Brown.
I'd rather have Les Miles than Mac Brown.
Right, unless the only way I'm okay with Mac Brown as UVA's head coach is if he's got some prodigy coordinator, preferably on offense, who he's going to groom for 2 or 3 years to take over for him.
So Bobby Wilder.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Hey, Hey, now we're talking. Next, we've got Troy Calhoun from Air Force.
Ooh.
Mark Richt, formerly of the Georgia Bulldogs. He's probably my top choice, assuming that his motivation is all still there. So he's clearing away my number one, assuming he.
I saw that Georgia had actually offered him like some weird position within their athletic department to like stay on. There's no way he does that, right?
No.
Yeah, I mean, you can't stay there as former coach unless you're Phil Fulmer and you just retire because you're so old.
Yeah, I guess unless he does a lot of like charity and missions work.
Right.
So I think in the situation that he decides, you know what, I don't want to do the head coaching thing anymore. I want to focus on like philanthropy and missions work and everything like that. And I collect a paycheck from Georgia while I'm doing it. That could be potentially feasible, but I'd rather see him at UVA.
Way.
Yeah. So next we've got Lincoln Riley. He's the offensive coordinator for the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah.
Matt Rule from Temple, though, like we said earlier, it appears Missouri may be making a move there. Mike Sanford Jr., Notre Dame's offensive coordinator. I think there was a report that came out. Someone irresponsibly on Twitter said that he had been offered the job. I think that's been squashed since that point. Greg Schiano.
Apparently he was a big target when they hired Mike London.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I still haven't heard his name that often.
When he's 33 years old, too.
Yeah. He was 33 when they were going to offer him the job, right?
No, he is 33 today.
Oh, he is 33 now. Yeah. Wow.
So.
Man, he was like. He's
a young
fella. I know people that are 33.
Yeah, I work with people that are so Sanford Jr., Greg Schiano, we'll see what shakes out with him and Rutgers. I'd be okay with Greg Schiano as UVA's head coach. Not my first choice, but he's probably tied for second. And then
I think the natural reaction to Greg Schiano is just to be like, oh God, no, please no. But like, there's really no basis to that. He flamed out with the Buccaneers, and he did a really good job with the Rutgers team that, from all accounts, is heavily limited on support and recruiting base and everything else.
Right. That can't be an easy school to recruit to, just based on location and weather and.
Now his teams weren't a lot of fun. He is not a fun offense guy.
No.
So. That's,
but I think he could be persuaded,
Right. I don't think he's one of those coaches that's married to his offense, though, like some of these guys are.
Yeah, and the final name that's come up is Matt Wells, who's the head coach at Utah State.
Oh, boy. He's only been there for 1 year.
No.
No? I thought Utah State's coach became Wisconsin's
They've been to back-to-back bowls underneath him. He's 25-15.
Oh, okay.
As Utah State's coach. So those are the names. Mark Richt would be my clear number one. I would be okay with Greg Schiano and a Mac Brown paired with a Bobby Wilder type succession plan. One of those like Riley or Sanford coordinator types feels like a little bit more of a risk, and I think Craig Littlepage has come out and said, we want a guy with proven sustained success. So that would kind of seem to go against the grain of what he outlined by saying that. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think Sanford will get a head coaching job one of these days. His pedigree is too good, probably not to get one.
Right.
But at this point, if he's only 33 and UVA needs probably something a little bit more proven than that. But
yep.
Oh no. Yeah. So. Interesting. What is your lean? Like, who do you want out of that list? I mean, I guess you said you'd be okay with Schiano. I mean, would you rank Schiano your number 2 behind Richt?
Yeah, I'd say Richt is 1, Schiano is 2, and then Mac Brown with a successor plan in place would be like 3A, and then those 2 coordinators, Sanford and Riley, would be kind of 3B.
Sure. Yeah. I probably tend to agree with you there. I think Richt is far and away the number 1 option. I don't know if he's a pipe dream or not at this point. I mean, he's only been out of a job for 9 hours, so we'll see. But, yeah. So I think Tom Herman is still out there. I don't think UVA would have the sway to pull him. He's going to probably get a pretty good job, be it South Carolina or I don't know if Georgia would go after him. He's there's another fun offense guy.
But because he had removed himself from consideration for South Carolina, I think was what was reported on Saturday.
Right.
So it'd be interesting to see. Does he go Georgia? USC has reached out to Chip Kelly reportedly.
No way! Get out of town, Chip Kelly. Yeah. Chip Kelly's gonna be coaching the Tennessee Titans next year anyway. So
remember that guy?
I mean, so UCF is full. Georgia, and we don't talk about Miami. Miami's still open, and that's still a school that matters. So I think what could really blow this open is if Charlie Strong decides he wants to go coach Miami, and then it would be lit for sure because we would just have all the Saban to Texas rumors back again, just for another year of that. And basically, what would come of this is Nick Saban would be making $20 million a year next year at Alabama to coach that team, and will retire in 2 years, just disgruntled and with $50 million. So
swim in a pool of $100 bills.
Right, exactly. So I mean, the silly season, as I don't know who called it that, is fully upon us at this point. As a Florida fan, I'm glad Florida snagged a coach that appears to be competent and a really good coach last year, so they don't have to try to wade through this. But if Florida was open, I think they'd be first in line for someone like Herman. He would be a real Jeremy Foley hire if I've ever found one. Just Jeremy Foley loves the up and coming guy, and anyhow. So I think that's about all we got.
Hawaii got filled too.
Oh, that's right. I saw that. Who is that?
It was like he's got a Nevada connection, I think.
And did he play at Hawaii back in the day?
It wouldn't surprise me. I didn't read too much in depth about it. But
right.
Yeah, they are no longer on the board, and that's what matters.
Man, I thought we were going to have a shot at that job, Jordan.
Yeah, maybe in 2 years.
Maybe the PlayStation 2 memory card that I sent them with my playbook didn't get there.
See, you gotta go delivery confirmation.
I decided not to get that guaranteed delivery. So, but yeah, so crazy time of the year, and we are about to really heat up recruiting season 2, which will be fun to talk about. Probably. I don't know. Recruiting is kind of weird to talk about. It feels a little icky, but it's really important in college football these days. And frankly, recruiting is the reason that all these guys get fired the day after the season or during the season. So,
or the reason some guys get hired,
Yeah, true that.
It makes and breaks the best of them.
Well, I mean, and we were talking about how poorly LSU handled their situation. I know I mentioned this last week, but that kid Felipe Franks, who's a 4-star Elite 11 guy, big-time quarterback recruit, just committed to Florida today.
All right, Gators.
He probably watched Florida play last night and was like, "Damn, I could do that."
He's like, "I can start next week against Alabama."
Yeah. So I think my dad was asking that question. Why can't they just bring a guy in? Kicker?
For kicker.
Okay. I was like, yeah. So I mean, that would be nice, but
yeah.
I don't think you want a high school senior on your team anyway. But he probably is gonna. I mean, I imagine it's an open quarterback battle if he does indeed honor his verbal commitment that he's already, reneged on LSU. So that that kind of stuff, jerking around a coach and stuff like that, does matter and does trickle down all the way to the players on your team. So we will be locked into coaching and. We'll be locked into these games, and then we'll have a little bit of break before bowl season, and we'll definitely be locked into coaching changes and recruiting moving forward. So I don't think there is any college hoops of note other than the fact that you guys, if Bill Walton's ever calling a game, you guys need to be watching it. I just want to give a plug for my man Bill Walton. Jordan, we were watching the fifth place Maui Invitational.
Fifth place game of the Maui Invitational. My man Bill just looks like he got pulled out of a tiki bar somewhere on the beach. Yeah. He's got a pair of Maui gyms on in the gym, calling the game through sunglasses, and not skipping a beat.
Just rambling on about I think he entered the game saying, "This game is about the past. This game is about the future. Oh no, this game is about history. This game is about the future," which was awesome. Just so pretty much Bill still crushing it, high as a kite.
Yeah, so I hope we just
allegedly high as a kite. Sorry, allegedly.
Like this is like LeBron and/or MJ in his prime right now. At this point, Bill Walton commentating games, just like
right.
It's a national treasure. It belongs in the Smithsonian, and you guys need to get on it.
Right. So anyhow, shout out to him. Shout out to ESPN for continuing to give us these gems.
Yeah.
Surprised Bill Walton hasn't been caught up in the budget cuts at ESPN, frankly, but maybe they're keeping him around for pretty cheap.
It's the one
stash
solid
him in Maui.
He might be just working for free. Like
yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me to know that he just shows up and he's like, yeah, I'm on the game today. And he just doesn't collect paychecks at all.
Right. Yeah, and frankly, it's not a bad lifestyle.
I'm fine with it.
So, the Warriors still haven't lost. The Sixers still haven't won. All is right in the world. This has been the Wheel Route Podcast. Thanks for joining us, guys. A little bit of a weird episode this week. Fired up to talk about all this stuff with you guys. Jason, hope you're doing well out there. We'll miss you. Hopefully, Jason will be rejoining us sometime in the coming weeks. I think JMU is out of conference. Tough out of conference basketball schedule has really been weighing on Jason's podcasting abilities, and that's okay. We get it.
We don't agree with it, but we get it.
We get it. You can find the show at the Wheel Route on Twitter. You can send us an email to wheelroutepodcast@gmail.com. Again, I'm Logan Whitehouse. Oh, sorry. You can find us on the34.com if I haven't mentioned that. That's the34.com. I'm Logan Whitehouse, at Log1TheDawn on Twitter, at Log1 on Instagram. I only post pictures of my dog and the beach. So thanks for joining us. Jordan, sign us off, buddy.
Jordan Shank, Harrisonburg, Virginia, at Shank Jordan on Twitter and Instagram.
Ooh.
You can search for me on LinkedIn, but I probably won't accept your connection invitation. Have a great week, and go Hoos.
Go Hoos.